Welcome to Marvellous Women, the podcast. I'm Dr. Samantha Rush. I'm the founder of Marvellous Women Cards, and also I'm the host of this wonderful, wonderful podcast. On this episode, we are joined by someone who's really into understanding how things work so that she can help others be able to be better, as well as being better herself. Welcome to the podcast. Enjoy. Welcome to Marvellous Women, the podcast. On this episode, we are joined by Mei, just like Prince. So let's get started. Who is Mei?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. That's a really nice way of a short introduction. So I'm a marketing analyst, but I'm also an aspiring data scientist. So I am working my way towards that incrementally. But the reason why I am here today is what I do on the sides as well. So I prefer not to call myself a piano teacher because that gives completely different perception to others when I try to explain what I do. So now I tell other people I'm a music educator / coach, and I combine musicology, piano technique and artistry, as well as neuroplasticity, what I call neuroplasticity in action concepts. I combine these three, I fuse them together, and I pass this information, or I, in a way, coach kids from the age of 6 to 16 to help them unlock their greatest potential. So that's what I do as well.
Amazing. And what about you? Outside of your work and what you're aspiring to, and outside of your work with unlocking potential for musicality in kids, who are you? Like, what's at the core of Mei?
What's at the core of Mei? I think I naturally like to find patterns.
Enough?
I don't know. It's just something, the past couple of weeks and months, I've been thinking to myself, how come, when I'm in a meeting, whether it's at work or when I'm teaching kids or whatever, based on the conversation and what's going on, naturally my brain goes, how's this connected with that and things like that. So I seem to, find a way of connecting the dots between, let's put it this way, and this is how I explain to some of my friends now recently. Somehow my brain connects the dots between seemingly disparate ideas.
Yeah.
So to other people, it may be like, now how that makes sense at all. But I'm like, but this is how we can. And I can give you a bizarre, probably sounds like a borderline bizarre idea at the moment. So right now, so I'm literally officially off work, but I'm still teaching to, those of my students who are on holidays. I'm binging on the top #1 non-speaking program on Netflix right now. Season 2 has just come out, and it's called Culinary Class Wars, for those listeners out there who are into cooking competition.
Culinary Class Wars.
Culinary Class Wars. And it's my homework. So I'm binging on this to get ideas, and I've already listed a couple of notes. I'm getting ideas for a 6-month assignment at work, where I'm also going to try and, use some concepts from there. And I just texted my friend yesterday. Learned so much. It was when season 1 came out last year, it was the top #1 global non-speaking program, and I couldn't understand. I didn't hop onto it at all.
Yeah.
And finally, too much hype in the media, so I'm like, what is this top #1 Netflix series? And then all these marketing coming out going, December 16th, season 2 is here, the whole world is awaiting it. And I'm like, there must be something about this, right? So I'm just sitting there going, and I'm like, oh, this is very interesting. And so I've just finished binging season 1, just started season 2, and I've learned so much about teamwork, team spirit, human communication, competition, humility, passion, drive, stamina, brain stamina, mental stamina, so many things, it's just been
wow.
So, and then when I shared with, people, and then they're like, how you connect a cooking competition with, an educational drive at work or a campaign?
Yeah. But I think also, and I don't know if you find this, May, but sometimes when I'm in a situation that's totally unrelated to something that I'm thinking of or work that I have to do, just by observing and noticing and not trying to force an answer, but you're actually just letting your brain absorb what might be happening here and just noticing. You come up with combinations or learnings or connections because you're not trying to answer a question. And you're actually just giving your brain a little bit of like, you just speaking of, it's almost coming up to Christmas as we're recording this, but you're just letting out your belt a little bit on your brain so that it's just got a little bit of space to think. So that might be what's happening with the culinary wars. Are you watching to try and do something specific, or are you just kind of?
Yeah, so before I jumped into this series, I was watching another cooking competition series. I'm not a great cook, by the way. I'm a terrible cook, but it's really fun, right? And then I got inspired, and then initially it was like, do I want to watch this? Is it going to be another entertainment just to free my mind? And then somehow when I watched the previews, I was like, ooh, this may be something interesting. And I actually talked about this to two other people before I jumped onto it. So I spoke to a colleague at work who understands the 6 months assignment that's coming up. And I said to her, hey, do you know what? And she's very creative as well, because we worked on a previous project last year. I said, you know what? What would be so cool if both of us binge on this over the holidays, and then we're going to call each other on the 5th of January to like fine tune. I know. And I also chatted with my Pilates trainer, Jules, I said, what do you think? And she's like, yeah, go for it, But as I was talking to you, Sam, just a couple of minutes ago, I think thinking back, my dad was a trained mechanical engineer. So he worked in a tire factory. He literally, one of his longest serving jobs was he literally was part of a team that built a complete tire factory from ground up to production and ran it for a while. So everything about tires, car tires, truck tires, all that sort of tires, he's very familiar. But also, when he was off work, the only thing he knew how to release the work stress was to watch television. So good side, bad side. Unfortunately, he's very hooked to television. But I remembered as a kid when I don't know, back in the days, there was a lot of there was a series about Vietnam War, it's fiction, but I can't remember the name now. And then there was like A-Team, and then there was like all these other, probably giving away my age right now. But I remember sitting next to him, and he would look at whether it's fiction or non-fiction on the television, he would, automatically analyze stuff. Sometimes over analyze. And one of the things I remembered asking him, and he still does that, and I said, Dad, don't do that anymore. He still gets up at like 2 a.m. in the morning just to watch the English Premier League, because he's based in Malaysia, and the timing obviously doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're at your age, don't do that anymore, because the next day he'll complain about whatever.
Yeah.
But to him, it's not a football match, not a soccer match. It's like, all these team dynamics, and he'll sit there, and because I don't like the game, but my brother-in-law does, and both of them can have this like very engaged conversation over a soccer game. And I'm just sitting there going, what are you people talking about?
That's so funny.
I know, but I think a little bit of that probably, spilled over to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, then I start to also try and analyze things a little bit.
It sounds like almost like seeing through the surface
Yes.
to see what might be behind.
Yes.
And so there's like multiple levels of understanding, which I think is really important in both of the things that you talked about right at the beginning. So, as a marketing analyst and as a data analyst, that's so important to look beyond the surface level of the data. What's there, what's not there, what could be there, what does this mean, what could this mean, how could this be interpreted, and what might we be able to do to try and get to the outcomes we're trying to. And I think as well with the combinations of the musicology. Yeah, you've got notes on a page. Yeah, I get that. And you've got, keys on a piano. But what could be there? Let's look through the surface level. Is that what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's actually how I teach.
Mm.
So if I get a student that comes to me like starting, like I'm their first piano teacher, it's a lot easier because they have a blank sheet of paper and they don't know what music or piano is all about. And for some of my students who've been with me for a number of years, so they're like 8 and 9, they start to think that piano teachers all are like that, and like learning the piano is like that. So I mean, touch wood, if at some point I no longer am their piano teacher, they're going to be in for a big shock. Yes. I can tell you.
Yes.
But for a number of students that come to me from another teacher, I spend like anywhere between 6 months to a year just brainwashing them, because the way I teach is very different. I'm like, I'm not here to teach you. Yes, I do teach, which notes and whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, I'm here to teach you to see the pattern. Like, what do you see? Like just Friday, I was teaching another student, right? She's preparing for a grade 2. So she's got some knowledge now, yeah? And then, so I said to her, okay, this is new piece. This is a new syllabus. Okay. And I give you 2 choices. Now, I want you to think about which choice you're going to learn for the next couple of months, right? And then the first thing she goes is, yeah, I like this one better because this one sounds nicer. And then I'm like, no, Chloe, that's not what I want you to tell me, right? I want you to tell me, what do you see across the multiple bars that's occurring again and again, or what's not happening, or all that sort of thing. And she's just, I think she's 10. So I'm training them at different levels depending on their age.
Yeah.
To see really not just the notes and the keys,
What does it sound like?
What does it sound like? And I teach them, because the piano is just an amazing, I mean, all musical instruments are the same. The tone is what's different, right? Yeah. Which determines the technique. And even my students 8 years old, I'm already teaching them the different techniques that we apply on the keys can produce different quality of tone. And so, yeah, like I said, those are my students who, if they suddenly, they start with me, I'm their first piano teacher, and they decide to switch at some point, I think they're going to be in for a shock.
Probably both the new teacher and the student.
Yeah. And they'll be like, who taught you?
So, Mei, for anyone who's listening to this episode who would like to, and this is, random, but for anyone on the call or on the listening to the podcast who would like to start learning an instrument but feels like it's too late, they're too old to start, what 3 things would you recommend that they do to start learning?
I think first and foremost is the intention. And that's key. What is the intention that they want to pick up an instrument? And this is not something that I would have the answer to. This is something that only they will know. And they have to be completely honest with themselves about it. Yeah. So it can't be based on some family members going, I'll just take an example. Yeah. So it's very popular that older people, the seniors, they want to pick up a musical instrument to fight off dementia, let's say. Yeah, which is possible.
Yeah.
But it could also be everybody around them say, hey, I think you need to pick up a musical instrument because the science shows la 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 la. But if they themselves don't feel like it, I would recommend don't do it. Because as with many skills and technique and everything, right? Intention is so important because you're going to be ready to do it again and again and again and again and again and again.
Yes. Repetition.
So if you're not going to like to do that, let's not start the whole game. So intention is the first thing. Secondly, I would say really spend a lot of time to find a teacher or a guide that would suit them. That really knows their stuff, that's got some amount of experience, but really spend time, word of mouth is the best, to find someone. And that could take time. That could take a number of experiments even. And then thirdly is something that will lead on to what I thought about talking today is a little 3-step process that I've been using for the past 4 years now with my students. It's very basic. Anyone can do it. Anyone of all ages, literally doesn't limit you from the ages of 6 to 16. There's 3 simple steps, which I like to call the 3 burps. Just because when I was trying to coin it, I was thinking, what would be a cute acronym that kids would remember? If I create an acronym that's not catchy, kids wouldn't remember it. So literally it's number 3, and then B with a capital R. Capital B, small r, and then capital P and a capital S. So B with a small r, PS.
Yes.
So that stands for brain preparation steps.
Okay.
So it's really simple. And basically the first step is we got to think of a happy thought. Just one happy thought, not multiple happy thoughts, just one. So it can be an event, something happened in our lives that when we think about it, we literally, happy. Or another way that I describe it to my students, something that in your heart, when you think about it deep down, it gives you that warm, fuzzy, comfortable feeling, really nice inside. I just give an example. One of my 6, he's 7 years old now. I asked him, do you have a soft toy that you like to cuddle, always your favorite one? His answer was brilliant. And they've got lots of soft toys in the living room. He's like, I have my blankie. I'm like, what's your blankie? It's literally just a blanket, just a piece of cloth. But obviously when he was little, younger, that blanket was probably the one thing that gave him a lot of comfort.
Yeah.
And so literally when I was teaching him on Friday, he kind of was struggling with some bars. So I said, okay, we're going to use the 3 burps. Now what's your happy thought? And then he was struggling. And I said, well, where's your blankie? And so we went and the sister picked up the blanket for him. And it was really easy after that. So the first step is just having that happy thought.
Would it work I'm just thinking adult context, to think of something that they're really grateful for? Because I think people are more familiar with that concept than, think of something that makes you feel warm inside. Think of something that you're really grateful for. So that would work the same?
Yes. It's funny you said that, because the 3 burps is actually what I call a kid's version of a set of 6 or 5 steps called the 6 R's, which is, I call it, the way I see the adult version. And funny you say that, because the what do you call, the step before the 6 R's is thinking about someone that we are super grateful for,
Mm-hmm.
or that has inspired us so much. Preferably someone we know very close, but
Yes.
there is a little caveat there. Preferably not a family member or immediate family member, just because there are a lot of intricacies around layers,
Yeah.
and we don't want to have all that complication, at least not in the beginning.
Yeah.
So yes, identify a person that you have utmost admiration, that may have helped you in some way, and that you are really grateful for what they've done. Yes.
Yeah. I love that. Excellent. So that's step one.
That's step one. And then step two, which is key, relax your head. Now, clarify. We didn't say relax from the top of your head down to the face, down to the shoulder, down to the. Don't worry about all that. Takes too long. Just relax your head. And there's some science behind that. And if we go into the science behind that, it's going to take another podcast.
Yes, but, it will. At least one. At least one.
So just relax the head. And I was thinking really hard, how do I explain relax the head to kids?
Yeah.
So I first tell them, okay, our head is round and heavy. Now, what can you think of that is round and heavy?
Round and heavy. A bowling ball.
Very good. Yes, that's exactly what came to my mind. And I thought, oh, bowling ball. So I just say to them, imagine your head is like a bowling ball and it just rolls away. Okay. And quite more often than not, it does work on the kids. Yeah. But for some, if they don't get it, then I just say, just relax your head. Just relax your head.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that could work. I think in an adult context might be close your head, think of the weight of your head like a bowling ball, and now, bowl it away.
Bowl it away. Just let it roll away gently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Relax your head.
Yeah. Relax your head. Okay. What's step three?
Relax your head. Step three, utmost important. I cannot emphasize enough. Of course, all three are important, but we have to smile. Like, I am not kidding you, Sam. Like, I say to my students, I don't care if you feel like smiling or not right now. You just smile.
That's right.
Because again, there is some science. Again, that if we want to cover the science behind that, there'll be another 2 podcasts.
There will be. There will be.
But many times I just say to these kids, like there was one example, this student of mine, 9 years old, he's a bit of a, he wants to be the best of himself. So he has this very high expectation of himself, which I feel like is bizarre sometimes for a 9-year-old. Like, so one day he has his lesson at 8:40 in the morning on a Saturday. And then I just walked in and I'm my usual, good morning, how are we today? And then all of a sudden he breaks into tears. And then I'm like, okay, this can't be me, because I just walked in. I just arrived and all I said was good morning, right? And then I realized that, he had been struggling and he was not happy with what he was doing, or maybe he wasn't really practicing, or I don't know. I didn't really, and I said to him first, I said, well, do you want to talk about it? And then he was like, no. And then I said, well, do you think by not talking about it will make you feel better right now? He's like, yeah. And then eventually I coaxed him, and then he started smiling. Within 10 minutes, we turned the lesson around so that the lesson wasn't a complete disaster, So the smiling is just so important. But time and again, Sam, when I first started this as an experiment about 3, maybe 4 years ago now, I was still a bit, what if we try this on kids, And don't get me wrong, when I first started, I was like a bit stumped, my teaching is going nowhere. Some students are not practicing. I'm like, I need to think of some way to turn these kids around. Otherwise, I might give up teaching, too stressful.
Yeah.
So I came up with this and I tested it a little bit. And now, because I'm more confident in the delivery of the instructions, I tell you, bars that they've been struggling and struggling and I just sit there and I stop them and I go, wait, what are you doing right now? And I use this analogy with my students. I take a book and I say, look, if we want to create a hole in this notebook in the center, what's the best way to do that? And then we talk about it and I say, probably we take a scissors and then we cut with the scissors to make a hole, right? I said, what you're doing right now is you're taking that notebook and you're literally punching the notebook again and again, hoping that at some point in the near future, there will be a hole or at least a dent in the book. And I said to them, is that going to happen? And they're like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. And so that was the initial, motivation that I used to get them to go, we got to do this another way. And so I was really proud of them because last month I had like what is that, like an annual recital for my students. And, one of my students, he's the eldest, he's 16. When I first introduced the three births to him, and because he's also he has such high, I don't know what's wrong with these kids nowadays. They have so high expectations of themselves. I have no idea what's going on, but he has this really high expectation, and that, it's so like stress. Even when he's practicing, he's so, stressed and stiff, and I used to say to him, I say, Sean, you're not smiling enough. I say, you're not smiling enough. I'm not talking about in front of the piano. I'm talking from morning till the evening. And he's a boy and he's a teenager. And to try and tell a teenage boy to keep smiling would be like,
that's a hard ask.
That's a hard ask, right? But I can tell you, after like years and years of, driving that, at the recent recital, I because I wasn't at the angle where I could see them when they were playing, right? He sat on the piano. He did great. He sat on the piano, and before he pressed the first key, big smile, because he knew doesn't matter whether you feel like smiling or not, it works.
You do it.
Curve those lips first.
And I think there is something in that, for breaking your mind out of the place that it's in.
Yes.
And when you're smiling, you're moving muscles, and moving muscles is exercise, and exercise creates endorphins. So
that's right.
It perfectly makes sense. We're almost out of time, May, but I just want to ask you about a couple of things. So the things that you've talked about, moving from, being a marketing analyst, the work that you're doing there, into being a data analyst, and then also not only learning a musical instrument, but teaching others how to learn a musical instrument and how to think differently about learning a musical instrument and playing. Like, there's a lot of things that you're talking about that require, I would say, sustained, no pun intended for the piano, sustained commitment and focus.
Yes.
How do you stay with that? It's not a, I'll get this done in a week thing. It's not even a, I'll get this done in a year thing. Like it's a lot. So how do you work your mindset around staying focused on something that is going to take a long time?
Yeah, thanks for raising that question. That is like the key ultimate. And this reminded me, I took a quote from, his name escapes me now. What's the name of the NVIDIA CEO?
I know who you're talking about, but it's escaped me too.
Oh God. He was like in the news, like everywhere.
I know.
Year.
That's okay. You've given everyone some homework to Google it.
Yeah. He had a quote when he started talking about what NVIDIA was doing, before, right after this whole ChatGPT, Anthropic saga came out. He said, if you want to be good at anything, you have to be prepared to do it again and again and again for really, really, really long time.
Yeah.
And I thought about that a little bit, and also connected that with, a lot of my teachers, a lot of whom have passed away now, and how they, some of them literally taught, or at least talked about what they were teaching till the day they died. Literally. And again, comes back to what I mentioned earlier. It's all about the intention. Plus, it's all about the passion as well. So I do have, some students that I struggle with, and I said to them, look, I don't care if you're going to use piano or music even to develop it into a great hobby of yours, or even a career. That's not what I'm trying to show you. What I'm trying to show you is the structured process on how you can train your brain to learn pretty much anything. And with some of my students, especially girls, teenage girls, because I have a soft spot for teenage girls, especially those who, a little bit introvert, having a lack of confidence, because I came from there. And I said to them, I gave them homework. I said, okay, take a blank piece of paper, take a lot of happy colors, and some of them have got, younger brothers and sisters. So I show them, look, all these toys that all these famous toy companies make, what colors do you see? Right? And all these toys that are made by Mattel, Fisher and Price, they're all bright yellow, blue, pink, all these, because they've done their research, right?
Yeah.
So I said to my kids, my students, I said, take a bunch of these happy colors, I call it, take a blank piece of paper and write down a list of, this is brainstorm mode, write down everything that you have, that you have a skill for, or that's something that you do, and one girl said, Sudoku, is that okay? I said, yeah, write that down, write down. You want to write piano, dance, taekwondo, hapkido, whatever that you're doing, Sudoku, just write it down. I said, with happy colors. Do not use black, gray, that's a thing, right? And then I said, okay. And then after that, from that list, pick out or highlight those that give you energy. That means when you do them, you don't feel tired, but the opposite happens. You feel even more energized. And I said to this 13-year-old just on Saturday, I said to her, the best test is if you are feeling tired that day or just a little bit down, and when you do this activity, all of a sudden it's changed. You become more energized. You all of a sudden that tiredness is all gone. So I said, list down, create a list, except sleep, because one of my students did ask that. She's 12 years old. She said, well, I like sleeping. Can I put that in? I said, well, let's
look. I'm going to tell you, when I have a power nap, which I'm really good at, I feel so energetic afterwards. So just put it out there.
Okay, maybe next time I'll allow the sleep to go in.
But it has to be a power nap, not like a 2-hour nap.
Yeah.
15 minutes, 20 minutes. Yeah.
Max. Agree. Yeah. But then I get them to make a list. So there's 2 now that I'm, working with them. I did introduce the idea to another girl, but she's not hopping onto the, she's not joining the party. But it's okay. You see, the thing is that not everyone is going to come to the party, and that's fine. But those that are happy to, or at least are curious enough, they're probably like, what is teacher Mei talking about? And sometimes before I start introducing new concepts, I almost like have to put a disclaimer out there to my students. I go, none of your teachers in school teach this way, do they? And then they go, yeah, no. And then I go, well, you see, that's the problem. You see, we need to have more of this way of education in school. The thing is, we've been so, and it could be some historical reason or whatever, right? I have yet to ask Google or Claude the history behind how schools started, because if we look back to the 17th, 18th century, obviously not everybody had access to education back then, right?
Yes.
And so it was just like one tutor and maybe the kids in that home and things like that, only for people who couldn't afford it. So I'm curious now to find out, at what point did schools start and what was the purpose? I'm assuming more access, more education to people. But I think over the centuries, let's put it that way, we might have forgotten a little bit the real purpose of education. We might have been too focused in, okay, so what will help this child be prepared to get a job, right? So we need to educate them to get a job. However, we are now in 2025 going into 2026. We're looking at how the advances of technology are making, machines and computers, etc., work more efficient. And if we don't revolutionize, I would use the word somehow, on how we're gonna have a holistic approach towards preparing the next generation, all our children, our kids, right? How can we expect them to be equipped? It's almost like my uncle used to joke, we used to ask him, so how would you teach someone how to swim, right? And he said, oh, I have a method that works, I tell you, and it's very simple. I take you to the deepest end of the pool and I just throw you in. And no matter what you do, in that instant, you will learn how to swim. And I feel like that's what we're doing with our kids right now, aren't we? We're not really, I wouldn't even say equipped. We're not even giving them the tools, not even to the level. We're not even preparing them mentally.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I don't disagree. I think, historically education has been about, you are a blank slate. I have knowledge. I am going to pass on to you my knowledge, as opposed to let's discover, let's explore, let's build your knowledge, as opposed so me fill my knowledge into you versus let's explore so you can create your own knowledge. And they're two very, very different.
Very, very different things. And I know this because when I first started teaching, I was using the first way because, I had some 7 years before I started teaching.
Well, that's how you learned, right?
That's how I learned. But also before I started teaching piano, I was a Sunday school teacher. And we were taught that way.
Yeah.
We passed down you guys listen.
That's right. Listen to me.
Listen to me. And I was doing it for 7 8. And so when I started teaching piano, obviously because I was taught piano and viola that way as well. And my teachers were really good, but they were super strict, right? Super strict.
Yeah.
So I learned lots, but then 1-2 years into the teaching, I was like, okay, this ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work. If I continue, either I'm gonna quit or they're gonna quit me. And then I tell you, when I started it's a collaboration mind shift.
Yeah.
By golly, I'm starting to learn. Half of what I just said to you is a result of a collaboration on the concepts fine-tuned with kids as young as the age of 7. They're constantly just blowing my mind every single time. Last Friday, this kid who just turned 7, so he's 6, just turned 7 last 2 weeks ago. When I explained to him again the 3 verbs, you know what he said to me? Why do we have to smile? And then I said, by golly, Ethan, of all, I've been teaching this for 3-4 years. How come not a single student has asked me this? Why is it important to smile? And then I said because his sister, I also teach, his sister is 10, right? So I said, okay, come, Chloe. Chloe, you explain to Ethan, why do we have to smile? So a lot of,
well, that's all we have time for.
Yes. But I'm most happy to have a conversation with anyone. Feel free to reach out to me. I do know because I'm also part of a network where we're practicing the 6 R's and stuff. Someone tells me he and his sister are running a school in India, working with disabled children, like some of whom are deaf and mute. And he asked me, can this work? I said, oh, that's something I've never really tried on, I've only worked on with students who are complete in their senses, And then he told me that another lady in the UK is also experimenting, with this. So I'm more than happy to, have a chat with anyone who's interested working with.
It's a collaboration mind shift.
It's a collaboration mind shift.
Yeah. I think it's what's really interesting in this conversation has been, the possibility around, being creative and experimenting and not locking yourself in and seeing that things have to be done a certain way, that you can punch a hole through that notebook, but maybe we just need to find another way to do it. And I really enjoyed this conversation, but we are out of time, Mei.
Yes.
So I want to thank you so much for sharing your experiences and about you.
Thank you so much, Sam. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoy it. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
It's a pleasure. Mei, thank you so much for sharing your stories, your experiences, and your philosophy. I think that it's a really interesting view on helping us all to be better. I hope that you all enjoyed the podcast as much as I did recording it. And until next time, stay marvelous.